Hi, Shelley. I've got lesson 23, number 6 written down on this paper. So I've gone ahead and plugged all the numbers into the formula already. I'm just going to show you how to get your calculator to do this mess of numbers, right? So the important thing is to just follow the order of operations, do a little bit of the calculation at a time, and use your calculator's memory feature so that you don't round anything as you go. So we'll start by copying down our 25,000 times. Now this 0.0299 over 12 shows up in several places. So I'm going to calculate that divided by 12. And you get 0.00249167. That's a long decimal. You could just write it all down, or you could have your calculator remember this number by using your calculator's store function. So this button STO here, you press that, then you choose any number 1 through 9 and you store it as that. So we'll just choose 1. And now when we clear, you see there's a little M1 up here. That tells you that there's a number stored in M1. To get it back, you press recall. It's right underneath store, RCL. So you press recall, the number 1, and there's the number back. All right, so I'm going to put this aside for a second so that I can write. And I'm going to, instead of putting 0.0299 over 12, I'm going to write M1, memory 1, stored in my calculator. Then I have 1 plus 0.0299 over 12, so that's 1 plus M1. And then that's raised to the 12 times 4, which I can do in my head, or I can pull back the calculator and type in 12 times 4, and you get 48. So I'm going to replace that 12 times 4 with a 48. All right, that's over 1 plus M1 to the 48 minus 1. Okay, so now I'm just going to do some of these calculations. I'm going to do 1 plus M1 to the 48. This shows up twice in my formula, so I'm going to calculate that value and I'm going to call it M2. So I'm going to have 25,000 times M1 times, now instead of 1 plus M1 to the 48, I'm going to calculate that. So I'm going to call back, I'm going to do 1 plus M1, I call it back by using this recall button, so you press recall 1 equals, so that's 1 plus M1, which is 1.00249, and then we're going to raise that to the 48 using the y to the x button. So you press y to the x, 48, and that comes out as 1.1268. That's this whole value right here, 1 plus M1 to the 48. I'm going to need that twice, so I'm going to store it as M2. So you use the STO button, store, 2, and then clear it. And you can see that it's there by pressing recall 2. Pulls that same number back up. All right, so instead of 1 plus M1 to the 48, I'm going to put an M2. And then 1 plus M1 to the 48 is M2 minus 1. Move this to the side for a second. So I have 25,000 times, pull this back. All right, M1 times M2. So recall 1 times recall 2 equals 0.0028. Which I'm going to need, or I can use parentheses, that's fine, 0.0028. Lots more numbers, right? Divided by M2 minus M1. So I'm going to hit divided by, and then I'm going to open a parenthesis because there's some little hidden parentheses here. So open a oops. Yeah, there we go. Open a parenthesis, divide by M2 minus 1, close the parenthesis, equals. Oh, I think I messed that up. Okay. So let's store M1 times M2. So I'm going to do that again. So I do recall 1 times recall 2, and I get 0.0028. I'm going to store that as M3. So store 3. And then 25,000 times M3 over M2 minus 1. So I'm going to do recall 2 minus 1, 0.1268. Let's call that M4. So that store that as the number 4. Did that work? Let me do it again. I don't have a little M4 up here, so I must not have pressed store properly. So I'll just do it again. Recall 2 minus the number 1, 0.1268. Now I want to store this, so I press STO 4. Oh, maybe you can only store 3 numbers at a time. That must be the problem. All right, well, I'm done with using M1, so I'm going to overwrite the M1 number. So recall M2. So I'm looking at this M2 minus 1 right here. Minus 1, and then store that as the new 1. 0.1268. Let's double check. Recall 1. Yep. So this is now M1. So this is 25,000 times M3 over M1. Recall 3 divided by recall 1 equals 0.022199, and then multiply that number times 25,000, and you get 553.25.